The first time Commander Thexaval saw Earth, he knew it would be easy prey. The blue planet spun lazily in the void, unaware that alien eyes watched from the darkness beyond. Thexaval stood on the bridge of his massive ship, studying the data streams flowing across holographic displays. His 6 arms moved gracefully as he manipulated the controls, zooming in on the planet's surface. "Look at them," he said to his second-in-command, pointing at the images of human cities. "They still use metal vehicles that roll on circular discs. Their flying machines need wings like insects, primitive creatures." The year was 1989 on the human calendar. The Velkari had just discovered this small world through their long-range scouts. What they found amazed them. A species that had barely learned to split atoms, still fighting wars with chemical explosives and metal projectiles. Thexaval had conquered 17 worlds in his lifetime. Each victory came after careful study and planning. But Earth would be his greatest prize. A whole planet of primitive beings rich in resources and perfect for Velkari expansion. "Begin the deep scan," he ordered. "I want to know everything about these humans." For the next 100 years, the Velkari watched and learned. They intercepted human radio signals, television broadcasts, and early internet communications. They studied human wars, from ancient battles with swords and shields to the great conflicts of the 20th century. The aliens watched footage of human soldiers charging across battlefields, their simple weapons flashing in the smoke. "See how they fight," Thexaval told his war council decades later. "No coordination beyond basic radio signals, no energy shields, no plasma weapons. They throw metal bits at each other and call it warfare." The Velkari military machine began its slow, methodical preparation. Engineers designed new ships specifically for fighting humans. They studied every human weapon system: bullets, missiles, bombs, even nuclear devices. Each Velkari vessel would carry shields calibrated to stop human projectiles. Their armor could withstand temperatures far beyond what human explosives could generate. Military strategists created detailed invasion plans. They studied human cities, learning the layout of major population centers. They identified key targets: military bases, government buildings, communication centers. The aliens knew where every important human lived and worked. Training began across the Velkari Empire. Soldiers practiced fighting in Earth-like environments. They built mock human cities and ran assault drills. They learned to counter human tactics, to exploit human weaknesses, to break human morale with swift, overwhelming force. Years passed. The Velkari war machine grew stronger while Earth remained unchanged in their eyes. The last data they collected showed humans in 2023, still using the same basic technologies: cars that ran on liquid fuel, computers that needed human operators, weapons that fired simple metal bullets. "A century of preparation," Thexaval said as he reviewed the final invasion plans. He was older now, his green skin marked with the ritual scars of a veteran commander, but his mind remained sharp, focused on the coming victory. The invasion fleet assembled in the outer darkness. 50,000 ships, each one a masterpiece of Velkari engineering. The smallest vessels carried enough firepower to level a human city. The largest could crack continents. Every ship bore energy shields designed to laugh off human weapons. Biological warfare specialists had spent decades creating the perfect virus. It would target human genetic markers specifically, leaving other Earth species unharmed. When released, it would sweep across the planet like wildfire, reducing human resistance to nothing within weeks. "The humans won't even know what hit them," promised Dr. Kethamar, the lead biological engineer. "Their primitive medical knowledge cannot possibly counter our creation." Ground forces trained with weapons that could punch through human armor like paper. Velkari soldiers wore powered suits that made them faster and stronger than any human. Their energy rifles could vaporize human vehicles with single shots. The logistics were perfect. Supply lines stretched back to Velkari space, ready to support the occupation force. Colony ships waited to bring Velkari families to their new world. Earth would become another jewel in their empire. Intelligence teams had identified key human leaders and military commanders. They knew which humans to capture alive for questioning, which ones to eliminate immediately. They had detailed psychological profiles of human decision-makers, complete with personal histories and character weaknesses. "Humans are emotional creatures," reported Intelligence Chief Yexnal. "They become paralyzed when facing overwhelming force. Their leaders will surrender rather than watch their cities burn." The Velkari had studied human culture extensively. They understood human art, literature, and entertainment. They knew what humans feared most: pain, death, the destruction of their families and homes. The Psychological Warfare Division had prepared broadcasts designed to break human will to fight. Combat simulations ran constantly, testing every aspect of the invasion plan. Virtual humans died by the billions as Velkari tacticians refined their strategies. Every possible human response had been calculated and countered. They might try to use their nuclear weapons, one strategist suggested during a planning session. "Let them," Thexval replied. "Our shields will hold, and every nuclear device they detonate weakens them further. They'll be poisoning their own world while we remain untouched." The Velkari had even planned for human space capabilities. They had watched the primitive rockets humans used to reach their moon, and the simple space stations they built in low orbit. Velkari fighters could destroy every human spacecraft in minutes if needed. As 2089 approached, final preparations began. The invasion fleet moved to staging positions in the outer solar system. Advanced scouts confirmed that Earth remained as primitive as ever. Humans still drove ground vehicles, still lived in vulnerable surface cities, still fought with kinetic weapons. 100 years of planning, Thexval told his assembled commanders. Every detail accounted for. Every weakness identified. Every strength countered. When we emerge from hyperspace above Earth, victory will be inevitable. The commanders agreed. How could it be otherwise? The Velkari Empire had conquered dozens of worlds using far less preparation. Earth would fall in hours, maybe days at most. The humans would never know what hit them. In the final weeks, weapons were loaded and tested. Troops received their final briefings. Ship captains reviewed their target assignments one last time. Everything was ready. The Velkari had spent a century becoming the perfect machine for conquering Earth. Every soldier knew his role. Every captain understood her mission. Every weapon was calibrated for maximum effect against human resistance. On the day before the invasion, Thexval stood alone on his bridge, looking at the tactical display showing Earth in the distance. So small, so blue, so helpless. Tomorrow that world would be his. The humans had no idea what was coming. They went about their daily lives, unaware that 50,000 ships full of death waited just beyond their detection range. "Sleep well, humans," Thexval whispered. "Tomorrow you learn why the Velkari Empire spans the galaxy while you crawl in the dirt of a single world." He was wrong, of course. But the Velkari commander had no way of knowing that the Earth of 2089 was not the Earth he had studied for so long. The humans he planned to fight no longer existed. The invasion would begin in 12 hours. It would end 12 minutes later. December 15th, 2089, the day the universe changed forever. Jiho Kim sat in the Seoul Defense Center, watching coffee cool in his cup. Outside, snow fell gently on the city's gleaming towers. The buildings stretched impossibly high, their surfaces covered in living metal that shifted and flowed like water. It was a peaceful morning. "Sir," called Minji Park from her station. "We're getting massive hyperspace distortions at the edge of the solar system." Jiho looked up from his reports. The defense center was a marvel of human engineering, its quantum processors humming quietly as they analyzed data from across the galaxy. Holographic displays showed Earth's position in space, surrounded by the soft blue glow of the planetary shields. "How massive?" he asked. Minji's fingers danced across her control interface, the air above her station filled with mathematical symbols and energy readings. 50,000 contacts, sir. Maybe more. They're coming out of hyperspace in formation." The coffee cup slipped from Jiho's hand, but it never hit the floor. The room's gravity field caught it gently, floating it back to his desk. Around the defense center, alarms began to sound. Not the harsh klaxons of the old days, but soft musical tones that meant the same thing. War was coming. "Get me President Chen on the emergency channel," Jiho ordered, "and patch me through to all defense centers worldwide. This is what we've been preparing for." The main display screen flickered to life, showing the alien fleet as it emerged from the darkness between stars. The ships were huge, their hulls dark metal that absorbed light like hungry mouths. They moved in perfect formation, thousands of vessels arranged in geometric patterns that spoke of military precision. Daesung Lee jogged into the room, still pulling on his uniform jacket. "How long were they watching us?" he asked. "Long enough to count our teeth," Jiho replied grimly. "Minji, what's our fleet status?" All defense platforms are online and ready, she reported. The orbital stations report full weapon charges. Ground-based systems are powering up now. Jiho nodded. Humanity had not been idle during the past decades. While the aliens watched from afar, human technology had grown and changed in ways that would have seemed impossible to earlier generations. The Earth of 2089 bore little resemblance to the world of 2023. The first alien message came an hour after their arrival. It was broadcast on all frequencies in perfect human languages. The translator programs the aliens used were flawless, carrying the full weight of threat and authority they intended. "Primitive humans of Earth," the voice said. It was deep and commanding, with the confidence of absolute power. "I am Commander Thexval of the Velkari Empire. Your world now belongs to us. Surrender immediately and your deaths will be swift. Resist, and we will make your species an example for the galaxy." In the Seoul Defense Center, Jiho listened to the message with growing amazement. Did these aliens really think humanity was still primitive? Had they been watching from so far away that they missed everything that changed? "Open a response channel," he ordered. The alien commander's image appeared on the main screen. Thexval looked exactly like the monsters from old human movies, tall, green-skinned, with multiple arms and cold black eyes. He wore elaborate armor covered in alien symbols and stood on what was clearly a warship's bridge. "Commander Thexval," Jiho said calmly, "this is Defense Coordinator Kim of the Earth Defense Network. We've been monitoring your fleet since you entered our solar system 3 days ago." The alien's face showed surprise for just a moment. "Impossible. Your primitive sensors cannot detect our stealth technology." Jiho almost smiled. "Your stealth technology is quite good, but we've had time to develop countermeasures. Please state your intentions clearly." "I have already stated them. Surrender or die." "I see." Jiho looked at Daesung, who shrugged. "Some things never changed." "Then I'm afraid I must inform you that Earth refuses your generous offer. Please leave our solar system immediately." Thexval's laughter filled the defense center. "Foolish humans. Do you not understand what you face? 50,000 ships, each one capable of destroying your largest cities. Weapons beyond your comprehension. Soldiers who could defeat your entire military." "I understand perfectly," Jiho replied. "The question is whether you do." "Last warning, Commander. Leave now." The alien's image flickered off. Around the defense center, status boards began showing weapon systems coming online, not just on Earth but on the Moon, on Mars, on the orbital stations that ringed the inner solar system like a necklace of death. "Incoming," Minji called out. "The alien fleet is moving toward Earth. Estimated arrival in 30 minutes. Jiho stood up, straightening his uniform. Outside, the city continued its daily routine. People walked the streets, unaware that 50,000 alien warships were racing toward their world. They trusted their government to protect them. Jiho intended to keep that trust. "Send the evacuation order to all surface cities," he commanded. "Standard protocol, underground shelters only. Estimated duration 1 hour. "Sir?" Daesung asked. "Shouldn't we tell them it might last longer?" "It won't," Jiho said with quiet confidence. "Minji, what's the status on the orbital platforms?" "All weapons charged and ready. The new quantum railguns are showing green across the board. Antimatter torpedoes are loaded and targeted." The quantum railguns were humanity's first surprise for their alien visitors. The weapons could accelerate projectiles to significant fractions of light speed, giving them enough kinetic energy to crack planets. The antimatter torpedoes were the second surprise. Each one carried enough contained antimatter to vaporize a small moon. "And the fighter wings?" "Ready and waiting," Minji reported. "All pilots are in position. The quantum fighters are showing perfect system integration." The quantum fighters were humanity's third surprise. Controlled by neural link, they could move in ways that would kill any organic pilot. They were faster than anything else in known space, and their weapons could rewrite matter at the molecular level. "Ground forces. All enhanced troops are in position," Daesung replied. "The new armor systems are online. Molecular disruptors are charged and ready." The enhanced troops were humanity's fourth surprise. Decades of genetic therapy and cybernetic integration had created soldiers who were faster, stronger, and smarter than any baseline human. Their weapons could literally erase matter from existence. "Sir," Minji called out, her voice tight with excitement. "The alien fleet is dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of our defensive perimeter." On the main screen, 50,000 alien ships appeared like angry wasps around a hive. They moved with practiced precision, falling into attack formations that spoke of centuries of military experience. "They're good," Daesung admitted. "Look at that formation discipline. These aren't raiders or pirates. This is a real military force." "Yes," Jiho agreed, "but they're fighting the wrong war." The aliens had studied human warfare extensively. They knew every tactic humans had ever used, every weapon humans had ever built. They were prepared to face the military forces of 2023, but the year was 2089. "Incoming transmission," Minji announced. Thexval appeared again on the screen. Behind him, the bridge of his flagship buzzed with activity as alien officers prepared for battle. "Final warning, humans," the commander said. "Surrender now or watch your world burn." Jiho looked around the defense center, at Minji, whose quantum computers could calculate battle strategies faster than any organic mind, at Daesung, whose enhanced reflexes could coordinate global military operations in real time, at the displays showing Earth's defenses, weapons and soldiers the aliens could never have imagined. "Commander Thexval," he said quietly, "you've made one critical error in your planning." "And what is that?" "You spent 100 years preparing to fight the humans of 2023. But today, you face the humans of 2089. Jiho cut the transmission and turned to his staff. "All units," he said into the global command network, "execute Operation Welcome Home. Show our visitors what humanity has become." The war that would last 12 minutes was about to begin. The first minute changed everything. Commander Thexval watched his forward scouts approach Earth's outer defenses. The primitive planet looked defenseless from space. Blue oceans, white clouds, and the scattered lights of human cities. Just as his intelligence reports had predicted, energy signatures detected, called his sensor officer. "Small defensive platforms in high orbit." Thexval nodded. The humans had built some kind of space stations over the decades, probably armed with their kinetic weapons and primitive missiles. His shields could handle anything so crude. "Begin the assault," he ordered. The first wave of Velkari ships moved forward, their dark hulls gleaming with energy fields. Each vessel carried enough firepower to level continents. Against human resistance, they would be unstoppable. Then the orbital platforms opened fire. The first quantum railgun blast hit the lead Velkari destroyer at 90% of light speed. The alien vessel, designed to withstand any conceivable human weapon, simply vanished. One moment it was there, the next it was expanding plasma and scattered atoms. "What?" Thexval began, then stopped as 12 more ships disappeared in flashes of impossible light. The quantum railguns had been humanity's secret project for 30 years. They used controlled micro-black holes to accelerate tungsten rods to speeds that turned matter into energy on contact. No shield technology in known space could stop them. "Evasive maneuvers," Thexval shouted. "All ships, evasive maneuvers!" But the human weapons tracked their targets with perfect precision. Quantum computers calculated firing solutions faster than organic minds could process. Within the first minute, 300 Velkari ships became expanding clouds of superheated gas. The second minute brought antimatter torpedoes. The human weapons looked like simple metal cylinders, no bigger than a person. They moved slowly compared to the railgun projectiles, almost lazily drifting through space toward their targets. Velkari point defense systems opened fire, filling space with energy beams designed to destroy incoming missiles. The antimatter torpedoes flew straight through the defensive fire without taking damage. Their hulls were made of exotic matter that existed in 11 dimensions simultaneously. 3-dimensional energy weapons couldn't touch them. The first torpedo reached a Velkari battle cruiser. On contact, it released the energy equivalent of a small star into normal space. The alien ship and everything within 1,000 kilometers simply stopped existing. By the end of the second minute, the Velkari had lost 800 ships to weapons they couldn't understand or counter. "How is this possible?" Thexval demanded. His bridge crew scrambled at their stations, trying to make sense of sensor readings that violated everything they knew about physics. "Unknown, Commander," his science officer replied, fear creeping into his voice. "These weapons should not exist. The humans were primitives. They used chemical rockets and metal bullets. Well, they're not using them now," Thexval snarled. "Deploy the fighters. Get through their defenses. Reach the surface." The third minute introduced the Velkari to humanity's aerial superiority. Thousands of alien fighters poured from the surviving ships, their sleek forms diving toward Earth's atmosphere. They moved fast and low, using tactics perfected across a dozen worlds. Each fighter was a masterpiece of engineering, capable of destroying human aircraft by the hundreds. They met humanity's quantum fighters at the edge of space. Wanho, Choi felt the neural connection activate as his consciousness merged with his fighter's quantum processing core. Around him, reality became mathematics, trajectory equations, energy calculations, probability matrices. His human brain, enhanced by decades of genetic therapy, processed information at superhuman speeds. "Contact," he said calmly. 3,000 alien fighters incoming fast. His wingman, Suzy Han, laughed through the neural link. "Only 3,000? This should be fun." The quantum fighters moved like living thoughts through space. They could shift through 11 dimensions, becoming briefly intangible, to avoid enemy fire while remaining solid enough to attack. Their weapons fired streams of condensed probability that rewrote the laws of physics in small areas. Wanho's fighter became math itself, sliding through space-time while his weapons turned alien fighters into geometric impossibilities. Where Valkyrie craft had once flown, now there were only expanding spirals of matter that existed in patterns reality couldn't support. In 3 minutes of combat, 5,000 alien fighters became abstract art painted across the sky. The 4th minute brought the ground invasion. Valkyrie dropships, heavily armored and shielded, smashed through Earth's atmosphere like meteors. They landed in major cities across the planet, their hulls glowing red-hot from atmospheric entry. Assault ramps dropped and Valkyrie ground forces poured out. Each alien soldier wore powered armor that made them faster and stronger than any human. Their weapons could vaporize steel and concrete. They had trained for a century to fight human resistance. Hyunwoo Nam watched them come from his position in downtown Seoul. Around him, other enhanced humans took cover behind barriers made of programmable matter. The humans looked small and fragile compared to the alien juggernauts advancing through the streets. "Remember," he said into his comm system, "these things spent 100 years learning to fight regular humans. Show them what the enhanced version can do." Hyunwoo's first shot came from a molecular disruptor the size of a pistol. The weapon didn't fire energy or matter. It fired the concept of entropy itself, wrapped in a quantum field that could penetrate any defense by convincing reality that the target had never been solid in the first place. The first Valkyrie soldier simply stopped being solid. His armor, his weapons, his body, all became loose collections of individual atoms that scattered in the wind. "What sorcery?" Another alien began, then discovered that human soldiers could move through walls by temporarily existing in parallel dimensions. Hyunwoo appeared behind the alien squad, having walked through solid concrete as if it were mist. His enhanced reflexes, running on quantum processors grafted into his nervous system, let him move faster than the aliens could track. In 30 seconds, the entire Valkyrie ground force in downtown Seoul had been reduced to scattered atomic structures, similar. Scenes played out across Earth as enhanced humans, demonstrated capabilities that violated every law of physics the aliens understood. The 5th minute brought biological warfare. In desperation, Commander Thexval authorized the release of the virus his scientists had spent decades perfecting. Specially designed to target human genetic markers, it would sweep across Earth like wildfire, killing every human within weeks. The virus was perfect. It was unstoppable. It was precisely calibrated to exploit human biological weaknesses. It was also 66 years out of date. The humans of 2089 barely qualified as the same species as their ancestors. Genetic therapy, cybernetic integration, and controlled evolution had transformed them into something new. Their immune systems operated on quantum principles, capable of rewriting their own genetic code in real time to counter threats. When the Valkyrie virus encountered its first human victim, the result was not infection. Instead, the human immune system analyzed the virus, understood its function, and began broadcasting countermeasures through quantum-entangled white blood cells to every enhanced human on Earth. Within minutes, humanity had developed immunity to a weapon that was supposed to be their extinction. By the 6th minute, the Valkyrie invasion force was down to less than 10,000 ships. Thexval stood on his bridge, watching displays that showed impossible human capabilities. His century of planning, his perfect intelligence, his overwhelming superiority, all useless against an enemy that had changed beyond recognition. "Sir," his communication officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet." Jiho Kim appeared on the main screen, still sitting calmly in the Seoul Defense Center. Behind him, displays showed Velkari forces being systematically destroyed across the globe. "Commander Thexval," he said politely, "you have approximately 6 minutes before our coordinated counterattack eliminates your remaining forces. This is your final opportunity to surrender." "Surrender?" Thexval laughed bitterly. "I am Velkari. I do not surrender to primitives." "We're not primitives anymore," Jiho replied. "That's what you never understood. You spent a century studying the humans of the past, but evolution never stops, Commander. We kept changing while you kept planning. The 7th minute brought humanity's final demonstration of power. Minji Park's quantum computers had been calculating the optimal response throughout the battle. Every human weapon system, from orbital platforms to handheld devices, received targeting coordinates and firing solutions simultaneously. "All units," Jiho announced, "synchronized fire in 3, 2, 1 be execute." Every human weapon fired at exactly the same moment. Quantum railguns, antimatter torpedoes, molecular disruptors, probability cannons, entropy fields, and weapons that had no names in any language, all unleashed. Together in perfect coordination, the remaining Velkari fleet existed for 3.7 seconds after the order was given, then they didn't. In the silence that followed, Thexval found himself alone on the bridge of his command ship. Everything else, his fleet, his soldiers, his century of preparation, was gone, reduced to expanding gases and quantum uncertainty. His ship's emergency systems had somehow protected him, but barely. Hull breaches vented atmosphere while fires. The silence was the worst part. Jiho Kim stood at the observation deck of the Seoul Defense Center, looking out at a city that had just survived an alien invasion. The snow still fell softly on the gleaming towers. People walked the streets below, many of them unaware that anything had happened at all. The whole battle had lasted only 12 minutes, barely enough time for most citizens to reach the underground. "Shelters. Casualty report," he said quietly, into his comm unit. Minji Park's voice came through the speaker, still carrying traces of disbelief. 847 injured, sir. Most from falling debris when the alien ships broke apart in orbit. 23 dead. 17 from a transport crash during the evacuation. 6 from a dropship that fell on an apartment building in Mumbai. Jiho closed his eyes. 23 people. Out of 8 billion humans on Earth, the invasion had killed 23. The aliens had brought 50,000 ships and planned for centuries. They had managed to kill fewer humans than traffic accidents did in a typical hour. And the aliens? Complete casualties, sir. We've identified maybe a dozen survivors total across the entire invasion force. Search and rescue teams are still looking, but Minji's voice trailed off. Jiho understood. 50,000 ships, millions of alien soldiers, all gone in 12 minutes of combat that had been less fair than a professional boxer fighting children. "Sir," Daesung Lee called from his station, "we've got survivors in Sector 7. A crashed command ship with life signs. Deploy a rescue team," Jiho ordered. "Full medical support. These beings came here to kill us, but we're better than that." The rescue operation took longer than the entire invasion. Human emergency teams cut through twisted alien metal with quantum torches, following faint life signals deeper into the wreckage. They found survivors in a heavily shielded data chamber, 3 Velkari technicians who had been protected when their ship's main systems failed. The youngest survivor was called Zivkin, barely an adult by alien standards. He had served as a junior data analyst, cataloging human weaknesses that were supposed to make the invasion easy. Now he sat in a human medical facility, his green skin pale with shock, trying to explain what had gone wrong. "We watched you for 100 years, he said in heavily accented but understandable English. The translation programs worked both ways. Every war you fought, every weapon you used. We knew everything about humans." Dr. Minacio checked his medical readings while he spoke. The alien's biology was surprisingly similar to human norms. 2 hearts, complex nervous system, carbon-based chemistry. Different details, same basic design. "What did you know about us?" she asked gently. Zivkin laughed bitterly. "Metal bullets, chemical explosives, nuclear weapons that poisoned your own world. vehicles that rolled on wheels or flew with wings, computers that needed human operators, communications limited to light speed. And when did you stop watching? Jiho asked from across the room. 2023, Zivken replied. Our long-range sensors could gather detailed information from that distance, but the data took years to reach us. When Commander Thexval ordered the invasion, our newest intelligence was 66 years old. Jiho exchanged glances with Daesung. 66 years. In that time, humanity had developed quantum computing, neural interfaces, molecular engineering, dimensional manipulation, and weapons that could rewrite the laws of physics in localized areas. Why didn't you update your information? Minji asked. We tried, Zivkin said weakly, but your technology changed too fast. Every time our scouts sent new data, it was already obsolete. We couldn't keep up. That was the heart of it, Jiho realized. The aliens had spent a century perfecting a plan to fight humans who no longer existed. They had been so focused on their meticulous preparation that they never considered the possibility of their enemies evolving beyond recognition. Tell me about your weapons, Daesung said. The ones you brought to Earth. Zivkin described energy shields designed to stop kinetic projectiles, armor calibrated against chemical explosives, biological weapons targeted at baseline human genetics, and plasma rifles that could vaporize steel and concrete. Impressive, Daesung admitted. If you had invaded in 2023, you would have won easily. But we didn't, Zivkin whispered. We invaded a world that had become something else entirely. The alien data cores told the full story. The Velkari had indeed been thorough in their preparation. Their intelligence was comprehensive, their planning meticulous, their equipment perfectly designed for the task at hand. Everything they had built was exactly right for fighting the humans they had studied. The problem was that those humans no longer existed. Look at this, Minji said, displaying captured Velkari technology on the main screen. Their energy shields are actually quite advanced. The frequency modulation is elegant. The power systems are remarkably efficient. Better than our old technology? Jiho asked. Much better. If they had come 60 years ago, our weapons couldn't have touched them. But now. She gestured at the debris field still orbiting. Earth. Now we use weapons that don't care about energy shields because they operate in different dimensions. The analysis continued for days. Human scientists studied every piece of alien technology they could recover, marveling at the sophistication and ingenuity. The Velkari had created engineering masterpieces. They just hadn't created them for the right war. It's like bringing a perfect sword to fight someone with a nuclear weapon, Dr. Yoon Seokjin observed as he examined alien armor samples. The sword is beautiful, deadly, expertly crafted, but it's still a sword. The psychological impact began spreading across the galaxy within hours. The Velkari Empire had been a major power, respected and feared by dozens of species. Their invasion fleet had represented the best of their military might. Now it was space debris, defeated by a species most aliens considered primitive. Sir, the communications officer called from his station. We're receiving transmissions from multiple star systems. It looks like. Diplomatic requests? Jiho frowned. Diplomatic requests? 12 different species have sent messages asking to establish formal contact with Earth. 3 are offering military alliances. 2 are requesting non-aggression pacts, and the officer paused. 1 is asking us to please not expand into their territory. The messages painted a clear picture. Word of humanity's victory had spread faster than the laws of physics should allow. Quantum communication networks carried the news across the galaxy in real time. Earth had destroyed the Velkari invasion force in 12 minutes with minimal casualties. The aliens watching from other worlds began reassessing everything they thought they knew about humans. Sir, Minji reported, I'm detecting massive fleet movements throughout the local region. It looks like 7 different species are mobilizing their military forces. Against us? Daesung asked, reaching for the alert controls. I don't think so. The movement patterns suggest defensive positioning. They're building barriers between their worlds and Earth. Jiho stared at the tactical displays showing alien civilizations hurriedly fortifying their borders against a human expansion that wasn't coming. The galaxy had suddenly realized that Earth was not a primitive backwater, but a sleeping giant that could destroy any army sent against it. And humanity had done it all by accident. The weapons, the enhanced soldiers, the quantum technology, none of it had been designed specifically for war. It was simply the natural result of human innovation and curiosity, applied to problems as they arose. What scares them the most? Jiho asked Zivkin during one of their interviews. The alien survivor thought carefully before answering. The speed of change. In the time it took us to travel from our staging area to Earth, just a few days, your defensive capabilities evolved. Our sensors detected new weapon systems coming online during the battle. You were adapting in real time, that was true. Human quantum systems had indeed evolved during the fighting, learning from each exchange and improving their responses. What the aliens faced in the final minutes was more advanced than what they had encountered initially. We've been watching other species for thousands of years, Zivkin continued. They change slowly, predictably. New weapons might appear every few centuries. New tactics take generations to develop. But humans, he shook his head, you change so fast that long-term planning becomes impossible. And that frightens them? Terrifies them. How do you prepare for war against an enemy who might become something completely different between the time you make plans and the time you attack? Jiho understood now why the galaxy was suddenly treating Earth with such careful respect. It wasn't just about human military power, though that was certainly impressive. It was about human unpredictability, the frightening possibility that any conflict with Earth might be fought against weapons and tactics that didn't exist when the war began. The final report made sobering reading. Earth had faced an invasion by a technologically advanced civilization that had spent a century preparing for war. The battle had lasted 12 minutes. Human casualties 23 dead, 847 injured. Alien casualties, total extinction of invasion force. What do we do now? Taesung asked as they reviewed the final numbers. Jiho looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them, alien civilizations were fortified. 1 week after the invasion, the galaxy held its breath. Jiho Kim walked through the construction site that had once been downtown Seoul's Central Park. All around him, teams of human workers and advanced fabrication systems built something that had never existed before. Earth's first interstellar vessel, constructed entirely from salvaged alien technology and human innovation. The ship rose from the ground like a metallic flower blooming in fast forward. Human engineers had studied the wreckage of Valkyrie vessels, learned their secrets and improved upon them in ways the original designers never imagined. What should have taken years of development was happening in days. Status report, Jiho said to Subin Yoon, the young engineer overseeing the quantum drive installation. 97% complete. Sir, Subin replied, her hands dancing over holographic control interfaces. The drive core is stabilized and ready for initial testing. We've integrated Valkyrie hyperspace technology with our own dimensional manipulation systems. The result is, she paused, searching for words, it's like comparing a race car to a rocket ship. Through quantum communication networks that operated faster than light, news of Earth's victory had spread to every inhabited world within 1,000 light years. The responses varied wildly, but they all shared one common element: fear. Sir, Minji Park's voice came through the communication system. We're receiving another diplomatic message. This one's from the Centauri Federation, Jiho sighed. It was the 14th such message this morning. Ever since word of the Valkyrie defeat had spread, alien civilizations had been sending increasingly frantic communications to Earth. Some offered alliance. Others begged for non-aggression treaties. A few demanded that humanity remain confined to their home system. What do the Centaurians want? He asked. They're offering us 3 star systems completely uninhabited if we promise not to expand toward their territory. Daesung Lee laughed from his position near the ship's weapons array. They're trying to bribe us with empty space? It's not empty, Minji corrected. The systems contain significant mineral resources. The offer is actually quite generous by galactic standards. That was the strangest part of the new reality. Alien civilizations that had ignored Earth for centuries were now offering valuable concessions to a species they still thought of as primitive. The disconnect between their perceptions and reality was creating diplomatic chaos across the galaxy. Sir, a communications technician called out, we're receiving an emergency transmission from the Rigel Collective. They're claiming that human ships have been detected in their territory. Jiho frowned. That's impossible. We don't have any interstellar ships yet. That's what I told them. They insist they're seeing human quantum signatures at the edge of their space. Daesung accessed his tactical displays. It might be our deep space monitoring probes. We deployed them years ago to watch for incoming threats. The aliens probably couldn't detect them before, but now that they know what to look for. You mean we've been watching them the whole time? Jiho asked. Oh yes. We have observation posts throughout the local region. We just never announced their presence. The implications were staggering. While the galaxy thought Earth was an isolated primitive world, humans had actually been conducting covert surveillance of their neighbors for decades. The revelation would only increase alien paranoia about human capabilities. Get me a conference call with the World Defense Council, Jiho ordered. We need to establish a formal policy for dealing with galactic civilization. The conference took place in virtual reality, with leaders from every nation appearing as holographic representations in a shared digital space. President Martinez of the Americas, Chancellor Zhang of the Asian Federation, Director Okafor of the African Union, and dozens of others materialized around a circular table that existed only in quantum cyberspace. The situation is unprecedented, President Martinez began. We have dozens of alien species offering us territory, resources, and technology in exchange for promises that we won't expand aggressively. And 3 species have sent ultimatums, Chancellor Zhang added grimly. The Vegan Empire, the Core Worlds Alliance, and something called the Stellar Dominion are all demanding that we submit to galactic authority and accept restricted status. Director Okafor leaned forward in her chair. What does restricted status mean? Essentially, it means giving up our sovereignty and accepting alien oversight of our technology and expansion, Daisung explained. They want to ensure we don't become a threat to galactic stability. The room fell silent as the leaders absorbed this information. Earth had gone from unknown backwater to potential galactic superpower in the span of 12 minutes. The adjustment period was proving difficult for everyone involved. What are our options? Asked Prime Minister Nakamura of Japan. We can accept restricted status and become a supervised species, Jiho replied. We can negotiate for partial independence under alien oversight, or we can reject all external authority and proceed as an independent civilization. What happens if we choose independence? President Martinez asked. Minji's holographic form flickered as she accessed real-time intelligence data. Based on current fleet movements and diplomatic communications, approximately 30% of regional alien powers would accept our independence. 40% would attempt to contain us through economic and political pressure. The remaining 30% would likely consider preemptive military action. They would attack us? Chancellor Zhang asked. Not immediately, Daesung said, but several species are already discussing the possibility of forming a coalition to deal with the human problem, before we become too powerful to stop. Director Okafor smiled grimly. Too late for that, isn't it? The truth was that Earth's defensive capabilities had grown exponentially since the Velkari invasion. Human engineers, working with captured alien technology, had developed new weapons and defenses that made the systems used against the Velkari look primitive by comparison. The galaxy was discussing ways to stop humanity, while humanity was busy becoming unstoppable. There's another consideration, Jiho said. Our technology is still advancing rapidly. Every day we don't fight a war, we become exponentially harder to defeat. That was the key insight that alien strategists were beginning to understand. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't any particular technology. It was the speed of human innovation. While other species developed new capabilities over centuries, humans could revolutionize their entire civilization in decades. The meeting continued for hours as Earth's leaders debated their response to galactic civilization. Some favored diplomatic engagement and gradual integration. Others pushed for aggressive expansion to secure resources and territory before alien coalitions could organize. A few suggested isolation, letting the galaxy worry about Earth while humans continued their rapid technological advancement. In the end, they chose a fourth option. We'll build the ships, Jiho announced. Not for conquest, but for exploration and contact. We'll meet our neighbors as equals and see who's interested in peaceful coexistence. Construction of the interstellar fleet began immediately. The first ship, designated Soul's Pride, was completed 6 days after the decision was made. It incorporated the best of human and Velkari technology, enhanced with innovations that neither species had achieved independently. Sub and Yoon stood at the ship's quantum drive controls as final systems came online. Around her, the engineering crew made last-minute adjustments to systems that would have been impossible to build just days earlier. "Drive core stable," she reported, hyperspace generators showing green across all boards. "Navigation computers are synchronized with the Galactic Positioning Network." Jiho took his place at the observation deck as Earth's first interstellar vessel prepared for its maiden voyage. Below them, the planet that had survived invasion and emerged as a galactic power continued its daily routine. Most humans still had no idea how much their world had changed. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving messages from 17 different star systems. Word is spreading that we're launching an interstellar ship." "What kind of messages?" Daesung asked. "Mixed, sir. Some are congratulatory. Others are concerned. The Vegan Empire is demanding we cancel the launch and submit to inspection by galactic authorities." "And our response?" Jiho looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them, alien civilizations were preparing for various possibilities. Some would welcome humanity as new partners in galactic civilization. Others would view human expansion as an existential threat requiring immediate action. "Our response is simple," he said. "We're going to say hello." The quantum drive activated with a sound like reality being gently torn and rewoven. Space-time folded around the ship as it transitioned from normal space to hyperspace, carrying Earth's message to the galaxy. The ship's destination was a neutral space station in the Arcturus system, where representatives from dozens of species conducted interstellar commerce and diplomacy. It was the perfect place for humanity's formal introduction to galactic civilization. As the Soul's Pride disappeared into hyperspace, carrying Earth's first interstellar diplomatic mission, Jiho remained on the observation deck. The stars looked different now. Not distant points of light, but neighboring worlds that would soon learn what